Whitaker Weekly is a 3-episode anime discussion podcast where two brothers discuss a show of their choice. The show can be anything from a current season flop to a decades-old classic. What are they going to talk about next? Who knows? They sure don't.
I'm Lee.
And this is Whitaker Weekly. Let's get right into it.
All right, this is our season ender, our recap episode. We talk about the last 24 episodes 25 through 49, and the animes that we watched during those episodes, and kind of go back and see what we thought about them.
Yeah. Kind of see if we watched more of the show to see if it if our opinions of it changed for any reason. Or if we stopped watching it for something, you know, or if we kept watching it.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway, let's go ahead and get started.
Okay, so what did we watch for episode 26?
Episode 26 is one of my all-time favorite comedies, Konosuba.
That's right. You had us watch Konosuba.
Yes, I inflicted Konosuba upon you.
You did. I recall being very much in the vein of, what have you done to me? What have you made me do now? And
you've watched all of it.
I have watched all of it. I have watched, there's 2 seasons now,
There's
that
2
right?
seasons, and there's a movie that's coming out this year.
All right, I have seen both seasons. I have seen all that there is to see available on Crunchyroll. And I'm looking forward to when the movie comes out.
I'm very excited for the movie. I love Konosuba. I just adore this group of terrible people getting themselves into horrible situations because they're just so bad at everything.
Right.
And yet somehow being able to use that badness to overcome these challenges that they keep coming across.
I think one of my favorite sequences in the later seasons is dealing with darkness and the caravan.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, when I was thinking of the terrible things that come across, and that is the exact scene that came to my mind.
Darkness in the Caravan. So I'm not going to spoil it for you for those who haven't seen it, but this show is definitely worth a watch. If you haven't seen it, pick it up.
Did you jump in the way of my binding spell? Because you didn't want them to attack me if I failed? No, that's not the reason.
That's not the reason she did that.
That's not the reason she did that. No.
It looks kind of fun in that cage. Don't you even think about it.
No, it looks kind of fun in that cage. Yeah. Don't you even think about it. Oh my gosh. Oh, Konosuba is so good. Yeah, so
that's definitely 2 thumbs up from us.
Yep, and as a reminder for those of you who don't remember, Konosuba, the premise is Kazuma, this kid, dies in an accident, but instead of actually getting killed in this accident, he dies of a heart attack, thinking he died in the accident.
In an effort to try to save this girl from being run over a tractor that wasn't even moving fast enough to do anything, he leaps into the way to try to save her and dies of a heart attack.
Now,
and is told that his family is laughing at him in the hospital.
They're just laughing at the fact that he died of a heart attack trying to save someone. Now, it's a little bit. The tractor
so it's an isekai.
The tractor moves at about the average speed of a tractor.
Yeah.
Those of you who've seen Austin Powers, I want to say I can't remember which one it is, but he's driving the steamroller.
He's driving a steamroller, and this guy's like, "Stop, wait!" And it takes forever.
It's like a 3-minute scene of him just driving the steamroller, and the guy had plenty of time to move, but he's like, "Stop, wait!" and just ends up crushing the guy. So it moves faster than that steamroller.
Yes.
But
barely.
Yeah, and he ends up in this world with a useless goddess.
So it's one of the great isekai, and apparently there's a chibi series coming out called the Isekai Quartet.
I think there are already episodes out. I could be wrong.
Yeah,
I don't know.
But yeah, it seems to be Konosuba, Overlord, and a couple others.
Re-Life. No,
it's ReZero.
Oh yeah, my bad. ReZero, and then Saga of Tanya the Evil.
Yes, and the 4 of them are just chibi characters in a combined isekai.
Speaking of chibi characters, there is an Overlord miniseries starring the Pleiadiuses, the maids, and it's freaking adorable. Okay,
fantastic.
It's adorable. I've only watched a couple episodes of it, but yeah.
Right.
Anyway, all right. The next episode we watched, episode 27. This was your pick of Ouran High School Host Club.
It is. I figured you got to inflict something on me that you'd already seen, so it was my turn to inflict something on you. So what did you think of Ouran High School?
I absolutely adored it. I thought it was wonderful. And this is one of the shows where I did watch all of it after the first 3 episodes, mostly because I knew that I think around this time is when we learned that Funimation was splitting from Crunchyroll. So they were going to lose the Funimation shows. So I figured if I didn't watch it now, I probably wouldn't get the chance.
Right.
Loved it. Loved the humor. Loved the character relationships and the overall development of it. Loved the dad. Absolutely love her dad.
Dad's the greatest.
And he her dad's a cross-dresser.
Yes.
And I don't think this is covered in the first 3 episodes. I don't think we meet him in the first 3
we
episodes.
don't.
But we meet her dad, and her dad is a cross-dresser. Professionally, he's a professional cross-dresser. And you think, okay, it's weird, but she's totally accepting of him, and all the other characters are totally accepting of him, and it's a really sweet reason why he started cross-dressing. He did it. He started dressing in his dead wife's clothes to feel closer to her. And I was like, that's so cute, And he just kind of kept doing it.
Yeah. So I finished watching it too, but I ended up watching it on Netflix in the English translation, which was done by the same studio that did the English translation for My Hero Academia.
Okay.
No, I'm sorry, no. Maybe. But I meant to say Full Metal Alchemist.
Okay.
And so the voice actor for Ed is the voice actor for the blonde prince.
Yeah.
And Mori Senpai, the big tall guy, Colonel Mustang.
Nice.
So hearing those voices again was pretty nostalgic.
Colonel Mustang is Travis Willingham from Critical Role.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So him as Mori Senpai on Netflix. It's so worth it.
Awesome. Okay, well, I don't have Netflix anymore, so... Anyway, after that, it was one of the hit shows of the season.
Yep.
That time I got reincarnated as a slime.
Yes.
And this is one that had 2 cores, and it just barely ended about a month or so ago.
I was under the impression we were going to get an episode 26.
That's what I thought as well, but apparently that was their last episode. They wrapped it up. For some reason, they wrapped it up with a recap episode. No idea why. No idea why.
As told, and it's kind of funny to listen to. A bit.
Oh, it is. It's funny, but it's just a very, very weird final episode.
Yeah. So what they did is they introduced the great Tsundere Storm Dragon that is introduced in the first episode gets to narrate the recap episode at the very end of the season. So,
yep,
it's pretty funny.
Yep. Yeah, it's a pretty funny recap episode. It's pretty good as far as recap episodes go. It's just a very, very weird choice for a final episode.
It is.
That said, the pacing was kind of off for the last little bit. I have watched all of it. The pacing felt off. It felt like they were trying to rush through quite a bit to get to where they went.
Yeah, the pacing for the entire series was very, it bulldozed through elements of the story. I felt like maybe it was trying to say, okay, go and buy the light novels, go and get more of it so you can have a fuller experience of what's going on. But throughout the whole series, and now it got worse towards the end, but through the whole series, it just felt like, okay, now this 3 episodes tells this story arc. And now we're moving to another story arc. And then they were introduced to new characters pretty quickly, and then they just... And it just rolled in, and it was world building over and over again. And then suddenly he's got his whole town and a country named after himself with all of these monsters, and then he leaves that country to go visit some kids, and then there's a story arc involving them. And
I don't feel like the pacing was off until the end, when it just was obvious that they were rushing through things.
Yeah.
I felt like each little arc had enough time to fully mostly each arc. Like there was the one where they're fighting, I can't remember what it's called, but the giant demon in the sky.
Oh, yes.
That one felt very rushed to me. Like he was built up to be this ultimate super powerful enemy, and they beat him in an episode.
Yeah, he could have been the
maybe
big
I'm
bad.
just used to Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah, maybe we are used to Dragon Ball Z pacing, where they would have taken the rest of the season to get.
It would have taken 6 episodes for a single fight.
But no, it's good that it's not DBZ pacing, but it felt a little rushed towards the end of the season. But it's a fantastic show with great characterizations.
And I believe it did well enough to where they're planning on a second season.
Yes.
I could be wrong.
And I'm looking forward to a second season. I'm absolutely going to be watching it when it comes out.
Oh yeah.
I hope that they can spend a bit more. I hope they get lots of seasons and they spend a lot more time on each of the element. Yeah.
Yeah.
to take their time with the storytelling and don't rush it so much, because it's just wonderful story.
Yeah, it's true. Wonderful story, great characters. It just felt rushed at the end.
Yep.
Anyway, next up, it was your pick,
Uh-huh.
and you picked Asobi Asobase.
That's right.
You
That's...
horrible man, you. You horrible man.
Asobi Asobase. It was it's one of those types of shows where they have episodes broken up into multi-segments. There's about 4 mini stories per half-hour episode. And it features these 3 girls who are absolutely horrible to each other.
Wait, you don't mean it's normal to fire lasers out of your butt?
So I finished this series. How about
So
you?
did I.
Yes.
I could not stop watching it.
Oh. No, I think one of my favorite parts was towards the end, where the deep misunderstanding about the evil cookies. The occult cookies. And thinking, like, her lips turned purple. How long did you ago did you eat one of those cookies? Yesterday. I have a day until I die. This deep misunderstanding. Because,
for those of you...
and then like I think the principal actually turns into a zombie, and he's like, cookies instead of brains.
I can't... Oh, gosh, yeah. The show is great. The show is real great. If you're up for just some nonsense, go ahead and watch Asobi Asobase.
It's fantastic. And it's really a delight if you have pop culture reference knowledge in Japan. For example, like we talked about it in our episode, we did talk about there's a sequence where one of the girls is holding a grudge against one of the other girls. And to demonstrate this, there's an actual shot where she's looking like the girl from The Grudge. And then speaks in a demonic voice for one word. It's like, everything's all right, huh? Yes. Something like that. I don't know the exact phrase, but it was...
Yeah, and I would recommend watching Mother's Basement's examination of the opening credits for this show, because he's the one that I watched where I can't remember the name of the flower in the opening credits, but it is all throughout the opening credits, and he pointed out how and if you watch the opening credits, it seems like it's a very, very laid back show about some girls, and it's just their life together and things like that, and but if you're watching, if you are aware of what flower language is, that flower, how did he word it? That flower, it's either this is a lie or I can't remember what it is now, but, but watch the video. But he and that flower is all throughout it, letting you know this is not what this show is going to be like at all.
If you know flower code,
if you know the flower code or flower language or whatever it is, it's not going. It's not going to be good.
That's fantastic.
Yep.
And it's when we talked about it, I remember we talked about it being up there with the deception of Pop Team Epic's fake.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Fake opening credits.
Their fake opening credits.
Where they spent. It felt like they spent half their budget on that gag of the fake opening credits because of how nice it is.
And then every single next time was about that dumb show they never showed us.
It's true. But still, just still my favorite thing in that entire series was those clips that was happening. They ran into each other and the pendant goes missing, and it's soundtrack to Chrono Trigger.
It's the Chrono Trigger, and then she casts Luminaire and stuff like that. And there's Lean's bell in the background. Yeah, it's great.
Fantastic.
It's great. Okay, next up was Zombieland Saga.
Oh, Zombieland Saga. Now, whose pick was that? That was your pick.
That was my pick. Zombieland Saga.
Okay, so that was a great show, and I loved the character arcs and some of the you have to be paying attention because some point in episode 11 there's a scene that explains why Sakura got included in the group.
I haven't watched it yet, so
go ahead and finish it up. It's pretty good. The only thing that troubled me with it was that they didn't spend enough time on the 3D animation that they used for their dance routines.
That's the way it is with a lot of anime, unfortunately. And I'm not saying that to justify it. I'm just saying that unfortunately is the state with a lot of anime where they do very, very simple, basic 3D animation. Anyway, and
I just saw How to Train Your Dragon 3, and I really shouldn't expect that level of animation from a Japanese anime.
No, I mean we watched.
There's a scene
Yeah.
where Toothless lands on the beach and he gets some sand on his wings, and you see individual grains of sand.
Yeah, that's what can happen when you have a 5-year time frame to work on a 2-hour movie instead of a 1-year time frame to work on a 13 episode.
Exactly, and not even that most of the time.
No,
but
maybe an 8-month window. To
8-9 months to do it. Yeah, but he also there's also just some shots there's some there's some shots of his father,
right?
And you see an angle where the sun's behind him, and you see the individual hairs on his nose. I'm just like, holy crap. And it's just an incredible movie. It's an incredible movie. Anyway.
And I've recently, last November, I was involved in pretty heavily in a 3D animation rendering project for a client with the branding company I work for. And yeah, I know what goes into those kind of render details, and it's just,
Now,
if it weren't for the fact the only reason they can do things like that is because they have such a high expectation for a return on their investment.
Oh yeah.
And it's just fantastic.
But speaking about Zombieland Saga again, yes. I really wanted to watch more. I just got distracted with other things and other shows that held my attention stronger.
It's like a 1-minute shot, if that, but somewhere in episode 10 or 11 it establishes a reason. It hints at a reason why the manager decided to pick Sakura among all of the legendary.
What's so legendary about her? What makes you legendary? Why did I pick you? Yeah. Oh, what a great show!
But I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it, and it was a whole lot of fun.
Okay, great. Well, episode 31 was your pick, and this is Rewrited.
Now, this is the first...
Derrida Who Leaps Through Time.
This is the first anime on this list that I haven't finished.
Okay.
I got through about halfway through episode 6, and it just... one of the reasons... Now, I only just barely finished watching... what's it called? Ouran High School Host Club in the last couple weeks, because... And watching it in English, I could do some of my my crafting hobbies. While I was listening to it, because I had already seen it once before. So I knew it was coming. But with Derrida, I kind of fell out of interest with it because the pacing was kind of dragging by episode 6, and I had a hard time just sitting down and focusing on the story and how things were going. I knew I could tell that they were trying to be cerebral with it. They were kind of so the storyline is about a guy who at one point in his life is able to throw his consciousness into his own body in a previous point in time. And what's happened is during his life he has moments of blackouts, and he doesn't know what happened to him and why he blacked out. And that's what's established in the first few episodes. And what's established after the first 3 episodes is that he has the ability to throw his consciousness into those moments where he's had blackouts and try to change the course of history. And anytime he tries to change the course of history, it doesn't work for him, and he goes back to the time he was. Like, he can make minor changes here and there, but I think that they're playing on this whole it's not Back to the Future where you're erasing events, but there is a theory of time travel that states if you change the course of history to change the reason you went back in time to change history, then that event never happened anyway. It's a mono-track theory of time.
Yeah, there's
opposed to the alternate timeline theory.
Where if you make a change, then it changes everything else and creates a new timeline. Those are the two major
and so this
major theories.
This one's exploring how can you change the past with that restriction, and that seems to be what it's going for, and it's trying to be cerebral, and it seems kind of interesting, but it's one of those things where you really have to pay attention and focus, and I just didn't capture enough of my interest to do that with.
Here's how much of my interest it captured. I forgot we watched this show. I don't even know if it's still in my queue. Let me pull up my queue here real fast.
There are a lot of more interesting things that have ended up on our list this season, and that one might have been the least engaging of what we've watched. Which, you know, it's not to complain about it too much. It's just we have watched some pretty amazing things this season already.
Yeah, we have.
So you're checking your queue right now to see if you have seen it?
No, it's not in there.
Okay.
I removed it from my queue.
All right.
Anyway.
So that was Rewrited. Derrida Who Leapt Through Time.
Yep. Okay. Next episode was Planet With, and it was my pick.
Okay.
And you can't really talk too much about Planet With without spoiling absolutely everything. You know?
It's true. It's true, but I think I only made it to episode 8 on that.
Okay.
It was just, I mean, up to this point, and this has kind of gotten to the point where, and I think I was trying to get through Derrida and struggling with that, and was so much more interesting with Zombieland Saga and all the other shows we'd watched at this point that I didn't get much further into Planet With. It is an interesting show that has a lot of moving parts and moving pieces, and it's heavy in action, and there are questions about loyalty and different philosophies about the nature of humanity, and these philosophies are ideologies adopted by competing forces trying to gain control of the destiny of humanity. And who's right, who's wrong? Are they both wrong? And is there a middle ground or a third party that needs to come in and figure it all out? And it's just it's a very interesting dichotomy in a story, which is not dissimilar from actually how Princess Mononoke was, is that there was a number of forces that were all had their own reasons for being right, but they weren't completely right on their own, and because they weren't willing to be only half right, they had to be all right. They were causing conflict that was causing a poisoning of the spirits of the earth.
Yeah. I watched all of it.
Okay.
I thoroughly enjoyed it, as probably because I gave up more quickly on Derrida than you did. But I watched all of it. I loved the characters. I loved the relationships. I loved the plot twists.
The big cat.
Obviously the big cat. The big cat was great. Kitty Cat Mech. And then the even bigger cat. Yeah, it's just I just absolutely adored this show. It just embraces its weirdness in such a fun, refreshing way.
A couple of years ago, I was in a ethics and values class in college. And it became very apparent as we were studying just the basic generic works of various philosophers that science fiction, the point of science fiction is to create a blank slate mental exercises to study philosophy.
Yeah, that
is a major use of it, and that's something that this thing does. Is it does create a huge blank slate with its own weirdness.
I saw someone online saying that politics has no place in science fiction, and literally everybody else was like, "Name a good science fiction where politics wasn't the central feature of it."
Oh no, absolutely.
So,
well, the point is, the point of most philosophical thought is how do we build the perfect society? What is moral? What is right? What is wrong? How do we define the things that is good on an individual level and on a cultural level? And politics is the adaptation of those thoughts and seeing, what's working and what doesn't. Politics is the mechanics of philosophical thought in that regard. And so sci-fi is the clean slate version of that, because we in our world we have messy histories.
Yeah.
And so there is no history that isn't worse than it is now. I mean, what I'm saying, what I probably didn't say that exactly correctly, but
yeah, you might want to clarify.
Humanity progresses morally always, and so anytime we look at our past, their moral compass is different and more corrupt than our own. And so you can't judge them by that. But anytime you do judge the past by a modern moral compass, they're off kilter.
Yeah.
Every time. So it's unfair.
That's a massive pet peeve of mine when people compare people where they examine people and what they did under our modern day sensibilities.
Right.
You can't judge them by our sensibilities. You have to judge them by their sensibilities.
And that's the point of science fiction, is it's a clean slate, wipes all that away, and creates new situations. One of the reasons Babylon 5 is so great is because it was able to examine the relationship between the Centauri and the Narns, a slave race that was freed, and a imperial race that is dying culturally speaking. But it didn't have the same baggage that human history has associated with all of that. And so it created a clean slate.
So you can bring it out into the open.
Bring it out into the open and examine it from different areas. Like, who was right, who was wrong. Just because they were wrong doesn't mean you're right also. And that's the function
That's
of
actually
sci-fi.
one of the reasons that I adore One Piece so much, because it brings up similar things where they can go at, like, where you can go ahead and bring up. They pretty much brought up that exact same thing with the fishmen, where the fishmen are usually enslaved to rich and powerful people on the above world.
Right.
And you have fishmen, pirates, and slaves rising up against their owners and things like that. Whereas, it's much easier to bring that stuff up into the open when it's set in a fictional world, as opposed to, pretty much walking on glass.
You're walking on glass when you're trying to do
doing it in the real world.
If you're doing what would we call it? Historical fictions.
Yeah.
Historical fiction is walking on glass if you're not very specific about your intent.
I would say it depends on the historical fiction you're going for.
Sure.
I know that pretty much any historian is just going to be upset with pretty much any historical fiction that they read. But anyway.
But no, A Planet With. It's a vague title, but it has a great piece that I really should pick it back up.
You should finish it.
Okay.
You should finish it when you get the chance. All right. Next was an old school anime that you decided to have us watch, Galaxy Express 999.
That's right.
Or 39, I think they called it 39. But anyway.
Galaxy Express 39s, yeah, or something like that. This one was fun, but I didn't watch any more than the first 3 episodes, I think.
Me neither. And that's not because I didn't enjoy it. I enjoyed it for what it was. I just had more pressing things to do than dive into a classic anime.
And how many episodes did this thing have? Didn't it have like hundreds or something?
No, not that much.
I remember it being quite a few episodes, and when I remember browsing through the episode titles and seeing clips, and it seems like it has a narrative with a finale. But I didn't go into it.
I still have it in my queue because I do want to watch it at some point.
Now that's one of the reasons we have an anime night, is to watch these kind of shows that we can just binge through and watch 4 or 5 episodes in a row.
But we just haven't had time for anime night at all recently. Okay, no, pause. I want to go to the episode list. Come on. Videos. There we go. Hoo boy. Yeah, there are 113 episodes.
So not hundreds, but more than 100.
113 episodes.
Okay, so yeah, and we've watched... So I have 110 to go if I'm going to watch this series. So...
I've got a lot more than that if I want to watch the series that I have. I have all of Lupin the Third queued up, and I want to watch it at some point. But I just don't have the time for it.
Right.
Okay, anyways, next up, it was... Anglemois, Record of Mongol Invasion.
That's right. Now that one had a very interesting art style, as I recall. It was they seem to have this kind of a parchment overlay on everything to give it this older feel.
Yes.
Which kind of made me think maybe my TV screen was a little dirty at times, but no, it was just the overlay. I remember being really excited and really interested to go back to that show because the cliffhanger on episode 3 was really tight, really engaging. But I don't think I watched past episode 4.
Same. I haven't even watched episode 4 yet. I really want to watch more of it. I really do. I just haven't had time. Like my attention's been pulled. Like I'm working on the beta of my next novel.
Yeah.
Work has just gotten busier and more stressful.
Sure.
You know, and then there's the weekly shows that have been calling my attention when I do have time, and when I have a night off, you know, I just kind of want to unwind, and that's not a show that I can unwind to. So
That's fair. That's fair.
So
No,
and I really want to watch it, but I just haven't had the time for it.
And that might be another one of the ones we have to pick up for anime nights to binge watch it. You know,
Maybe
4 or 5 episodes at a time and just
yeah,
make it happen.
yeah. All right. After that, Quadruple S Gridman.
That's right. That's right. And this one was a real delight because they had introduced, like, they had animated the monsters as if they were people in rubber costumes.
Yeah.
And that was fantastic. It was Ultraman. It was basically Ultraman with but the anime featured animated characters animated in 3D to look like people in rubber suits.
People in rubber suits.
In fact, they were monsters. There was like in the first episode, there's a Brontosaurus-esque monster that happened to have some sort of periscope-ish shape in its center. So its head was supposed to be, its fire-breathing mouth or something was supposed to be out in front of it, but there was clearly shaped for a person to stand inside of it too.
Yeah, yeah.
It was great.
I think one of the reasons behind that is because we see later on the girl with the purple hair, she makes these models.
I don't know.
And all of them are built upon a wire as if it was, and the wire is shaped like a human.
Ah.
So, I mean, yes, they do. It is very much a throwback to the classic Toei.
But they gave an in-world explanation
monsters,
for
but
it.
they kind of showed an in-world explanation for it.
Okay.
Speaking of movie monsters, the last trailer for Godzilla King of Monsters hit today, and I got so freaking excited for it. Oh my gosh. May 31st, I will be there.
All right.
All right. After that, and I've only watched the first 4 episodes of Quadruple S Gridman.
I think I've watched the first 4. I've only seen the first 3. I just didn't delve into that one because this season we had so many greats already.
Well, and I didn't watch any more of it because, well, yes, it's a fantastic show. I thoroughly enjoyed it, but as you'll see as we go through the list, most of the shows that I have finished that I watched on my own that weren't a weekly show are comedies. And I love to unwind to comedies.
Sure.
So, and that show was definitely not a comedy.
No, that show is an action. That show is a great little action piece. And so...
yeah. It's a fantastic show. I was in the mood to have a comedy to unwind to.
Yep.
All right, next up. Dragon Pilot, and it was my pick.
All right.
I watched several more episodes of it. It was completely delightful, especially when they introduced the other pilot girls and the other dragons. But I no longer have Netflix, so I can't finish it.
Okay. I didn't watch any more of it, to be honest. It's adorable. It's really cute. But yeah, I couldn't find the time to add that to the things that I was doing. Adorable little show, but yeah, no, I've got Netflix still, so we could probably have a seat and
maybe
pick that up, finish it off.
Maybe. All right. So, but yeah, I loved what I saw of it. I loved the animation, loved the characters. Just as we should probably be doing this for every show. We've missed quite a few of them, but for our viewers, for our listeners, Dragon Pilot is this world where dragons exist.
Yeah.
But it's up to so these dragons are not exploited for their powers or for nefarious reasons. The Japanese Self-Defense Force and various other countries that know about these dragons protect them by disguising them as fighter jets.
Yes.
And dragons
are
allow certain people to pilot them.
They are incredibly picky. They will bond with. They will choose who they bond with, and when they've bonded with somebody, that person, might not have as many rights as they think they do because the dragons are very picky about who they bond with, and they now have to become this dragon's pilot, which is kind of the leading drama in the first 3 episodes. But when they're inside the dragon's stomach, they are given this heads-up display that makes them feel and look like they are just floating out in midair with nothing around them except the occasional graphic display that says, okay, push here for this, push here for that.
Mm-hmm.
But they're just sitting there in this dragon's stomach, and they have to push on his stomach walls in places to get him to do what they want.
Mm-hmm. Such a weird show. I loved it. Anyway,
I do remember. Was it in the first 3 episodes where they discussed that there are two so did he throw me up? That was not the exit you ended up taking. No.
Yeah, they do say that, something like that. Just that was not the exit you ended up taking. That poor girl. That poor girl. Anyway, next up was your pick, and this was one of the isekai that we've already mentioned because there's going to be a mini with it, or a chibi series with it. Yes. And this is Saga of Tanya the Evil.
Tanya the Evil. Tanya is so in our world, a ruthless businessman who enjoys firing people who are useless, and has no sympathy for other people and is quite cold-hearted. Ends up getting pushed onto the train tracks by one of the people he fires within the first 5 minutes of the first episode, and as he's falling in front of the train, some being that is calling himself God starts having a conversation with him, and the things that he says start getting used against him as what he's going to be reincarnated as. And so he gets reincarnated as a little girl in the middle of a World War II-esque, or is it World War I-esque?
I think it's more World War I. Like, it's weird. You can't really tell. I feel it's more World War I because they have no man land, but they have weaponry from like World War II.
It's World War II weaponry, but World War I politics. And I want to say because there weren't Nazis, but there were the Kaiser, and there was like the it wasn't the Third Reich. It wasn't Nazis, but it was like the German Empire during the First World War that Tanya seemed to be a leader of.
Yeah, and she rose through the ranks pretty quickly and became, I think, a lieutenant of her own Magical Girl squad.
And so the god who put her in that world also seems to take delight in every once in a while completely messing with whatever plans she has. And this one I did finish. This one caught my eye, and I had to watch all of it because even though Tanya is this adorable psycho girl, I loved the girl that she ended up, the major that ended up spending a lot of time with her.
Yeah.
This delightful person who is following orders and doing good,
despite
Tanya being
evil. I have not watched anymore.
I only watched the first 3 episodes?
I only watched the first 3 episodes.
Okay.
I really loved the first 3 episodes. I wanted to watch more. But once again, like I said, I've just been in the mood for comedies recently, which we will see with the next show that I picked, which is Aho Girl.
Ah, yes.
Aho Girl. It is a brief synopsis of Aho Girl. The main girl is an absolute idiot. Like, Aho means idiot in Japanese.
It's true.
She is
not only did you
dumber
finish
than a bag of rocks.
Yes. Not only did you finish the series, you started reading the manga.
I've read all the manga. I'm up to date on it, and the manga's far worse at places than the show. It's far more ecchi, far more risque.
Okay.
Than it is. They. I think I showed you some screenshots. Yeah, it's
you showed me something about the mother of the girl being so intent on the main guy ending up with her daughter so that she has a future and a life in the future, that when somebody else came on board, she cut a cutting board in half.
Yeah.
And she's just a very, very scary person.
She is. But I've watched all of it. How much have you watched?
I think I managed to watch through the middle of episode 6.
Okay. Because the student council president becomes even more perverted, doesn't even realize how messed up she is. But
does anything good ever happen to the single teacher?
Teacher?
Like, there's a teacher who's single, and Aho Girl's trying to give her it's okay. Bananas that almost go rotten are when they're the best.
No, nothing good ever happens to her. No. she tries to cheer her up by Aho Girl tries to cheer her up by showing her that she can fall in love, and she dresses up as a boy.
That's right. I think I've seen this.
She dresses up as that boy several more times, and they keep trying to get her to stop because they're making the situation. She's making the situation worse. Nothing good happens to that teacher. There's a bit in. Did they do this in the anime? I forget. But she eats this banana, and it's a banana that's made in Japan, and she's so excited about it. She goes to the farm to congratulate them on the amazingness of this banana. But anyways, real fast synopsis.
I think to recall, like, she runs.
She runs, and she brings the cute little blonde innocent girl with her the entire time, forcing her to run.
She runs for, like, it was supposed to be like a 5-hour drive to get there.
Uh-huh.
And she runs the whole way.
Runs the whole way.
Forgets to drink water, forgets to rehydrate.
She's an absolute idiot, and she's completely in love with her neighbor. And her neighbor wants nothing to do with her. He has studied martial arts and body strength and all these things just so he can deal as much damage to her as possible because he's sick of her.
Yes.
And he's very, very violent against her. The moves that he would do, these moves would crush bones to anybody else, okay? He does not hold back. And yeah, like you said, the mom is trying to hook her up with him because she wants her daughter to have a future. Well,
and he's the only one who'll give her the time of day at this point.
Yeah.
Even if he doesn't like her.
Well, he doesn't try to give her the time of the day. She forces her the time of the day upon him.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, she does. She's very good at it.
She's very good at it. But she, in a bit in the manga, the mom finally comes to realize that this boy will never love her daughter, but what is she gonna do? And the boy's just like, there's only one thing we can do. Oh, what's that? We have to abandon her in the mountains. She'll be free. She'll be happy. Talking about it's like what you would do with a dog when you want to get rid of it.
Yes.
So, and then they're okay with that. And she's super excited about the plan. And then Takun, that's his name. Takun just says to her, wait, no, if we get caught, we'll go to prison. But, oh no, then what are we going to do? Wait, the Philippines. We'll leave her in the Philippines. There are bananas down there too. She'll have plenty to eat. And yeah, so they're plotting on abandoning her just to get her out of their lives. And the sweetheart girl is always a sweetheart.
Yes.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. She even helps the perverted president realize how perverted she is and tries to help her appear less perverted in Takun's eyes.
Okay.
So, but
naturally, because it's her trying to help.
No. This is the sweetheart. This is the blonde girl who's trying to help.
Okay.
And
the blonde girl who wears childish underwear, so she's not out to seduce him.
Yeah.
That scene.
Was there? I can't remember if this was in the manga or in the anime, but one day she decides that she's going to go ahead and dress more adult-like and get some adult-like underwear. And guess who she runs across?
The mom.
And the mom's super excited, wants to double check her underwear again, and things go badly. They go so badly. Anyway.
The show.
I watched all of it. I just couldn't stop laughing at just the absurdness of it, and I also read the manga. So yeah, that humor was just right up my alley.
Fantastic.
Oh, there's a throwback to those farmers. They invite her back to the farm to convey in this a meeting of farmers who are growing bananas in Japan.
Okay, so they have a convention of some kind? Or?
Yeah, but there's only like 4 of them.
Okay.
And they have her test the bananas, and she's railing into them for being like, this can't be the best that Japan has to offer when it comes to bananas. So, yeah, it's pretty great.
Well...
It's pretty great. All right. Next up was your pick.
What did I pick?
Shirobako.
Right. Shirobako. Now, we actually ended up talking about this show a lot throughout various episodes.
Yeah.
I finished this series, and a lot of the information in it, it's just one of those meta things where it's an anime about the making of anime and things that can happen in the industry. And it just becomes very clear and apparent what... it's a very enlightening show in that regard because No, I've done production. I've done film production. I've done television production. I've been a PA before and have my own IMDb page with like 2 credits on it or something. And no, so I could tell when things were being a bit sarcastic, but things were, legitimate concerns. And more often than not, it was a very legitimate concerns being dealt with in an imaginary way sometimes. Or just that she escapes into her imagination to avoid certain problems. There's an episode where she's trying to go out and find keyframe artists to help her out during the middle of the Christmas season, and she can't find enough people to help do the keyframe art for this episode, and suddenly she turns into the matchstick girl, walking around with barefoot in a cloak in ankle-high snow. Like, keyframes, anyone? It's like, why? Why would you do this to me? Why would you?
It's a delightful show. I really enjoyed it. I didn't watch any more of it because if you guys listen to that episode, it's because I've already seen the entire thing. Right. I watched the entire thing. It's a very cute show. It's very, very, I think, insightful into the method and the process of making anime. And anybody who's interested in learning more, I mean, obviously, I don't want to say it's through rose-colored glasses, but it's a rough industry. Animation is a rough industry to be in, especially in Japan.
Yes.
But if you want to learn more about it, that show's a good place to start, I want to say.
Yeah. And I was going to say, it's actually because of Shirobako that I forgave the 3D animation problems that were in the show we were talking about earlier. Zombieland Saga.
Yeah, Zombieland Saga.
So, yeah, I just know that, you don't have a lot of time to work on these things. And sometimes you just have to do the best you have with a cheap motion capture studio. So.
All right. Next up, it was my pick, and Karakai Jozu no Takagi-san. And this is, in English, that translates into Teasing Master Takagi. Takagi, yep.
Right.
Though it's not really teasing Master, it's Takagi is teasing Jozu is good at, so it's like great at teasing Takagi-san type thing. I have watched several more episodes of this, and I started reading the manga as well. I really like the artwork in the manga. I like the artwork in the show. And while she teases him, it comes from a good-hearted place. It's not like it's not menacingly teasing.
No, it's not vicious.
It's not vicious, and she, like, it's pretty obvious to the viewer that she likes him.
Yes.
And she's doing these things to spend time with him. Like, there's another episode where he gets in trouble for talking too loudly in class, and it's her fault because she's always teasing him. And so he's punished to clean. It's his job then to clean the science room. And she comes up and says, he's like, what are you doing here? Did you get punished too? And she's like, yeah, how about this? How about we turn this into a game? We'll play rock, paper, scissors, and the person who loses has to clean a fourth of the room. We'll do it 4 times. Oh, okay. And right before they start, she says, I'm going to do rock. And he's like, wait, what? Oh, that's a trap. She's not going to do rock. She's going to do paper. She's going to just try to get me. She's going to try to get me to do paper. She's going to do, she's going to try to get me to do paper to cover when she's really going to do scissors. So I'll just go ahead and do scissors to throw her off so we have a tie. Tell her, no, I'm not going to listen to her. 1, 2, 3, she does rock, and he does scissors. And so he loses. He ends up cleaning a quarter of the room, and then they do it again. She beats him all 4 times.
Of course she does.
But from that point on, she doesn't tell him what she's going to do. So she's just really good at playing mind games with him. She knows exactly what it's like. And in chapter 31 of the manga, I don't even remember where I found this, but I found this information online, and I read it just to see. It's her in the future as a 24-year-old woman with a daughter.
Uh-huh.
And she is teasing the daughter as mercilessly as she teases him.
Oh.
But it's good-natured jibing. She's using the teasing to be like a teaching method for the daughter, so the daughter learns things.
Okay.
And she says that is Daddy going to go home? And she says, oh, I don't know. I hope he's going to come home type thing. At the very end of it, you see Daddy coming home. Like, someone rings the doorbell, and she And the girl's like, Daddy! And the mom's like, Daddy is not going to ring the doorbell like that, sweetie. And so she opens the door and it's a delivery man. At the end of it, the doorbell rings again and she gets up and she opens the door and it's her. You see the back of the head of the husband holding grocery bags saying, sorry, my hands are full. I couldn't get the door. And the hairstyle is the exact same as the kid.
Aww.
And there's actually a sequel series where it says, where the title is now his last name, but it's referring to her because they're married now, and it's about her and the daughter, and he shows up every once in a while. Okay. So yeah, so it does have a happy ending, and it's kind of interesting that they decided to jump ahead, just kind of show you the future a bit so early in the manga.
That is interesting. Just what you were telling me reminded me of a scene pretty early on in there's a show called A Place Further Than the Universe.
Yeah,
where the main character decides that she's going to go to Antarctica and is already committed to going and hasn't told her mother yet.
Whoops.
And her mother finds out about it before she gets a chance to tell her. And her mother's, cutting vegetables, and there's close-ups on the knife, and the vegetables are getting cut, and it's one of those, menacing. Does she know? Does she? Mm-hmm. Is that the normal way that she cuts vegetables? Is everything okay? And the altercation, the altercation triggers, and the mother comes at her with a ladle, and she's running for the door. And just as the dad's coming home, he opens the door and he sees his daughter coming. He sees the mother with the ladle, and he closes the door on her, and he stays on the outside of it and just stands there and says, "I'm so sorry. Please forgive me. This is for your own good."
This is for your own good. That's cute.
And so your story about the mother teasing and their daughter, and that just reminded me of that sequence. It's just so adorable. The dad betrays her. It's like he's there. He's home for the day, and now he has to close himself out of the house to wait for the situation to diffuse.
All right, so that was my pick, and I've watched a few more episodes. I do want to keep watching.
I didn't watch any more of that one, to be honest. I wasn't keen on the teasing. I didn't.
Gotcha.
It wasn't my cup of tea.
Gotcha. All right. Next up, you picked this episode, The Rising of the Shield Hero.
That's right.
I'm up to date on it.
I watched the newest episode today. Well, episode 16 dropped today.
I have not yet watched episode 16. I've watched everything else, though.
Episode 16 dropped around 3 o'clock our time today.
Yeah,
so.
And I was busy doing stuff at work. And then I came here right after work because I knew we wouldn't have to watch it. We're actually recording this a little bit earlier than we usually do because I wanted to go ahead and get the episode recorded and done so I can go home and just relax for the end of the night and not have to worry about anything else.
Sounds like a plan.
But no, Rising of the Shield Hero, watch it if you haven't. I mean, I don't know what else we can say about it.
It is fantastic.
Yep.
It is absolutely worth all the hype that it's getting. It is one of the best shows of this season. And, if you're the type of person who avoids shows because a lot of other people like it, watch this one.
You avoid shows because because some people give some misleading information online about it, like I was doing thanks to some of the people on Anime News Network. Like one of them gave the first episode Kill It and Salt the Earth rating, the lowest that they can, and it was just talking about how it gives the Me Too movement, like it takes away credence or whatever from the Me Too movement and things like that.
Then we just know that that's a toxic reviewer and not to pay attention to them.
Well, and I just want to go ahead and say this, and it's not just that person that was saying it. A lot of people were saying it. Yeah. That's just one that comes to mind. The first edition of the light novel was published in 2013.
Yes.
4 years before the Me Too movement ever started. The author is also a woman. So you really don't have a leg to stand on when it comes to that argument.
No.
But anyways.
No, it's a fantastic show. And, it's... The story arc is absolutely amazing. But the big problem I have with this show is that it gives the best cliffhangers, and then more often than not, it just goes, oh yeah, that was the cliffhanger. Moving on with the story. Yeah. It resolves the cliffhanger in the first minute of the next episode, and then
I read some complaints about the last week's episode, the one where Raphtalia has the swords up against the guy who used to own her, the guy who forced her to become a slave.
Yeah.
apparently in the light novel and in the manga, she doesn't mercifully let him go. She attacks him and like cuts him up and does things to him. And Naofumi doesn't do the typical, we won't be any better than him if we do this. He doesn't care.
No, there's some stark differences. The source material is a lot darker than the anime.
Yeah.
And so, but it's still a great show.
Well, it's a great show, and that's just kind of a minor complaint about it. I did feel that was kind of cliched, and the guy ended up getting his in the end anyways, which is, again, a cliche.
Yeah.
I kind of wanted to see Raphtalia subvert that trope.
Right.
So, and I should read the manga and see what it's like in the manga, though.
Right.
But anyway, the show's great. Couple hiccups here and there like that, but if you haven't read the manga, you wouldn't know about the hiccups. After we're done with this, I'm going to go home and watch episode 16.
Yeah, this is one we're keeping up on.
Mm-hmm. Okay, next on the list is one that I picked, and probably my favorite rom-com of the season. Kaguya-sama, Love is War.
Oh, our goddess of chaos, Chika-chan.
Oh, Chika-chan.
I showed you. I shared with you a clip that somebody had already taken. That
You're out of breath. I had to run to the drummer room and get the hat.
Somebody had taken the Chika-chan dance from the end of episode 3 and made a Beat Saber video.
Yes,
Beat Saber rhythm to it, and did their best to have the Beat Saber triggers kind of match what she does during the various. It's a great little video.
It's
so,
and that a closing credit that detailed and that amazing they only used once in the entire show.
Yeah.
The rest of it was kind of that steampunk thing where Kaguya jumps out of a zeppelin with the help of her maid, and she grows and she has wings on her back when the president flies by in an airplane and grabs her.
I kind of like just how much like a James Bond opening the opening credits says. They've got some kaleidoscoping and.
I think it's our anime memes. I could be wrong. I'll have to double check with Doug. He's the one who told me about it. But a page on Reddit had their seasonal waifu wars, waifu voting tiers. Guess who the final two were?
Chika and Kaguya.
Kaguya and her maid.
And her maid.
Mm-hmm. Kaguya and Kaguya's maid.
I think I'm halfway through episode 6. I don't think I got through too much more of that show, to be honest.
I finished it.
Okay.
I finished it, and I've also read the latest chapters for the manga, which is way, way further ahead than where the show leaves off.
Right.
I picked up at the climax of a big arc, the school festival arc, and it's got a great ending to the climax. And then the humor in the manga is the same as the show. So there's a lot of just jokes where like there's a narrator. Like Kaguya the next day comes to school. She can't believe what happened, and so she comes to school as Kaguya-chan. Which Chika has seen only twice before in all the years she knows her. So she's super excited to see Kaguya-chan.
The only way that and there's like a very
specific
criteria.
Like her stress level has to be at a certain level, and she has to be at a certain level of tiredness in order to come to school as Kaguya-chan. And she's drawn as this adorable little chibi. Yeah. Like this little chibi, while the rest of her are just kind of normal size. And then the president, they go off to do some things to help out Kaguya-chan. And then the president mentally reverts himself to where he can communicate with her on that level.
Yes.
And they're then chibis, and they're talking to each other, and it's adorable. Someone comes in the door, and it shows them as they really are, kind of just like communicating weirdly with each other. And it says, moral of the story, artistic license only goes so far.
That's right, because then somebody doesn't see them in chibi form.
Someone sees them and they're not in chibi form.
They're just exhausted. That's so good. What I've seen. Okay, so there's the couple that keeps asking these two for advice.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I had just started the episode, the sequence in whatever episode it was, where the boy comes back for advice for the second time and asks to learn how to hold a girl's hand.
Yeah.
And the conversation had just started, and that's as far as I've gotten.
They end up going to those two for advice.
Good for them.
Mm-hmm. They end up going to those two for advice. It's pretty great. Pretty great. It's such a great show. It really is exactly as Giga described it. Two tsunderes falling in love with each other.
Two tsunderes.
Okay, so that was my pick of Kaguya-sama Love is War. Next, episode 43, Mobile Suit Gundam Seed.
Right, and so I picked that because I was looking for some action or something interesting to get into, and I didn't watch past the first 3 episodes. I didn't go further into it. Really.
It's a fine show. I'm just not in the mood for a late '90s mecha anime.
Sure.
So.
And it's a very specific genre that ended up becoming very popular.
Talking about sci-fi, Gundam's a perfect example of the blank slate.
The blank slate for political reasons.
Political reasons.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Political morality and things like that. All right, next was a show that I picked, a show that I've been wanting to watch for a long time, and I enjoyed what we did see of it. But again, because I've been in the mood for comedies, I haven't really watched any more of it. Captain Harlock.
Captain Harlock, yes.
Captain Harlock.
Yes, I had actually remembered seeing at least the first episode before we did the first 3 episodes because a lot of it was coming up familiar for me.
We watched, I think we watched the CG movie together.
We definitely watched the CG movie together, but I wanted to say I started the anime on my own once a while back, and then these 3 episodes.
Gotcha.
I had only seen the first one before, though we did the 3 episodes in.
I might end up doing something where I have it playing in the background while I'm painting minis for D&D.
Sure.
Because it doesn't feel like a show where I really have to pay too close attention to see what's going on.
No, it's a pretty well paced.
The first 3
70s.
episodes were very, very well paced. I felt. Yeah, it's a good show, but again, I just don't have a lot of time for things.
Right.
Next was your pick. My Roommate is a Cat.
My Roommate is a Cat. So that one was pretty cute when we saw it, but that one did not keep my interest. I didn't go back into it.
Okay, I watched all of it.
Really?
I watched all of it. I'm a cat person. It was a cute little show. I just love seeing seeing the human's point of view and then the cat's point of view, and then the cute shopkeeper that kind of becomes his friend.
Yes.
Turns out she adopted one of the cat's little siblings.
Yes.
Was that in the first 3 episodes? I don't remember.
No, it wasn't. But
okay.
I think you mentioned something about it at some point because, that the female shopkeep that becomes his friend, there was some backstory behind who was still alive of the cat's family and things of that nature. Yes.
Yep, and she adopted one of the siblings.
Okay.
So that's good. Anyway, there's not much more to talk about it. I mean, he comes out of his shell more and more.
It's one of those shows that I think I ought to find time to watch with my kids.
That'd be a good one for the kids.
So last season there was a show that I started watching with my kids that I couldn't get that because I'm watching it with them. If I don't have them to watch it with me, I'm not going to progress into it.
Yeah.
It's one of those kind of situations. How to Raise a Mummy.
I watched all of that. It was adorable.
And so How to Raise a Mummy and My Roommate is a Cat seems to have a lot of similarities, kind of the same vein of of like I don't know if there's there's the adorable pet genre.
There should be.
There should be.
There should be an adorable pet genre of anime. Crunchyroll, if you're listening, get on that. Make an adorable pet category.
Yeah, so that anything that is similar to How to Keep a Mummy or My Roommate is a Cat, those that needs its own subcategory. And both of those are shows that I want to watch with my kids.
Or the Hentai Prince and the Stone Cat.
I will not be watching those with my kids.
Anyway, I was just saying they should add that to the cute animal category.
No,
I know they should not.
That's in the
category. Was a joke.
That's in the category of what was it? Eromanga Sensei.
I thought Eromanga Sensei was a bit more ecchi than the name for.
It was
for the Hentai Prince and the Stone Cat sounds a lot dirtier than actually what happens in the show.
Yeah, it's not. It doesn't nearly come close to crossing the same lines that Eromanga Sensei crosses.
Don't F your sister.
Oh, Gigik. Thank
Yep.
you, Gigik.
Thank you, Gigik. Anyways, so that's my roommate is a cat. And then there's Space Battleship Tiramisu.
Oh, right.
How much more of that did you watch?
I didn't.
I watched.
You have a thing for comedies. You clearly do, and this one. I
only got to episode 11.
Oh yeah. How many episodes are there? Was it 11 out of 13 or 11 out of
Out of a
26?
billion.
Out
I'm
of a
joking.
billion.
It's 11 out of. There are 2 seasons.
So 26 episodes, 52. I don't think they could fill 52. Now, remind me, that one was a shorter episode?
There are
span,
3
right?
episodes, and then they have extra episodes. It's only 7-minute episodes.
That's right.
And then they have 3 extra
That's
episodes,
right.
and then
And I ended up watching
season 2 also has 13 episodes, 3 extra episodes. So it roughly what? That's 14 minutes for.
Yeah, it wouldn't take much to get more into that show.
Yeah. I mean, it's a silly little thing. It just even as a comedy, it failed to hold my interest in the long term.
Okay.
So,
was it kind of repetitive with how the jokes played out? Like a little too extra?
No. They kept introducing things. Like they introduced an evil clone of Subaru recently. I didn't really feel like it was too repetitive. It just kind of failed to hold my interest.
Okay.
All right. Next up, you picked Katakuri Circus.
I can't wait. I want to go back and watch more of this.
Oh
I
my
really
gosh,
do.
so
I
do I.
only watched the first 3 episodes. And for whatever reason, when I go to look for anime to watch, I go to Crunchyroll
Same
or
here.
Verve. And so I don't think to go back to...
I am the exact same. I was
I
thinking
don't-
about that when I was making the script for today. I was thinking the exact same thing where I'm just like, I never open Amazon Prime Video to see what anime to watch. I keep forgetting that this exists, which is terrible because the first 3 episodes were awesome.
They were amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole reason I wanted to watch it was because of that scene I saw on a clip on Facebook some time ago where he's being bullied by these kids at school and he's just smiling and taking it in stride because nothing these boys are doing to him is worse than what he's already been through.
Mm-hmm.
It's like,
Oh,
like somebody
you sweet
somebody
summer
draws
children.
like somebody's drawing something about him being pooped on or something like that on the chalkboard. He goes, "Oh, you're a pretty good artist," and it doesn't faze him at all. It's like,
I need to watch that.
yes, me too.
Yeah, fantastic show. For those of you who don't remember, it's made by the same guy who did Ushio and Tora,
Yes.
which is another phenomenal show.
Fantastic.
Katakuri Circus. I need to watch more of that. Enduro was my pick, episode 48. I have watched several more episodes. It's freaking adorable. They're on summer break, and the girls were going to go ahead and just do this. They were in their own dumb fault. In class, they're talking about what they're going to play over summer break. And the teacher forcefully reminds them, Amao-chan, forcefully reminds them that they do have homework they have to do. And they go to this, and they decide for their island, for their independent study, they're going to study the monsters on this tropical island. Yeah. And the elf girl does her best to get them to focus on actually studying instead of playing the entire time. So, the mom of the group.
Yeah. Team mom.
Stop saying that, or no Slurpees after the game. Aw.
No slushies.
No slushies after the game. Team mom.
Why are you saying it? It's catchy.
It's catchy.
Thank
All
you,
right.
Octopimp.
Endro was phenomenal. Or what I've watched of it is just so freaking delightful. Turning, like, not really turning the tropes on their head, showing how ridiculous those tropes really are is what it's doing.
Yeah, it's a whole scene about her robbing somebody's house.
Going in and robbing their house. Oh, lucky, I found a bunch of coins. Hey, some medicinal herbs. Wow, look at this great food. And then Mao-chan, the Demon King, forces her to apologize for robbing this poor woman blind.
Was it even blind? Like, weren't they watching it happen? Or?
Yeah, well, yeah. I've always thought the phrase robbing them blind is you took everything, including their sight.
Ah,
So that's how I've always interpreted that phrase.
Okay.
So, yeah, she took everything from this woman, and now she's forcing, Mao-chan is forcing her to apologize.
where did you learn this? What adventuring school did you learn this trick from?
Mm-hmm.
It's like every video game ever.
Yeah, seriously. Seriously. So, on the island, I will say that the elf girl remembers to bring the food,
Yes.
but it's all gone by the time they get there, thanks to Fi-Fi. On the journey over there, you always see Fi-Fi munching on something, and when they get there and they're getting ready to cook dinner, all the cards for the food have been used, all of them, and they show this montage of every stop they took or every scene they took getting to the island. Fi-Fi is eating something.
Wow.
So they end up going fishing. So, oh gosh.
It just reminds me. I saw earlier today somebody was doing a breakdown of a certain style of Hong Kong humor and how Stephen Chow is a master of it.
Yeah, Stephen Chow.
Just
Like,
these...
I'm so sad because his puns don't actually translate, and apparently he's a master at puns.
Yeah,
So,
but it's just what he'll do is the difference between an awkward comedy and a great comedy is the moment of the joke is the moment the audience realizes, oh, something's not quite right. And then a great comedy will know when that moment is and then carry on.
yeah.
Where an awkward comedy will know when that moment is and not care and just keep going and going and going. But then it becomes awkward.
That's like Family Guy, and they're awkward taking too long on a joke.
Yeah, but they'll do that on purpose.
That's just awkward humor in general.
Yeah.
I'm not the biggest fan of awkward humor, I think, because of that.
Right.
Um,
But Stephen Chow will hit you with a punchline and then move on so
Okay.
fast.
Okay. One of my all-time favorite movies was made by him. Kung Fu Hustle. It is currently on Netflix.
It is currently on Netflix.
For our listeners who have Netflix, if you have not seen Kung Fu Hustle, do yourself a favor and watch Kung Fu Hustle. Okay? It is comic gold. There is this scene where he's trying to assassinate this landlord lady of an apartment complex because this apartment complex has stood up to the Axe Gang.
Yes.
This gang that's taking over all of China.
Yes.
And so he's trying to prove himself so he can become a member of the Axe Gang. And so he's hiding behind a box in this alleyway, and he has 3 knives. And he throws the first knife, and it he throws it so poorly that it bounces off the ceiling of this alleyway, comes back and stabs him in his own arm.
It does. I remember this.
I can't remember what happens to the second one, but
He
that's what
keeps
happens.
injuring himself.
That's what happens. He hands the next 2 to his big buddy, and if you've seen Shaolin Soccer, his big friend is in Shaolin Soccer as well. He's one of the 5 brothers who studied martial arts. But he then goes to throw a knife, and he throws it, but it slips out of his hand, and it lands in Stephen Chow's other shoulder. And just like, oh! And then he's like, oh my goodness, I'm sorry. Here, how about you step forward so you're not right next to me when you throw. Oh, okay, I'll do that. And so he takes the other knife, and he winds it up, and he puts it behind him so far that he stabs Stephen Chow again with the 3rd knife. And this time he throws it, but it hits the landlady in the head, and she's like, who's throwing handles? It's just the handle to the knife. And he's like, wait, handles? And then he turns and he looks and he sees the 3rd knife in Stephen Chow's shoulder without the handle. And he's like, oh my goodness. Oh, so here's where it went. And he pulls it out, and Stephen Chow goes, don't do that. Oh, sorry. And he puts it back in the wound.
Oh my gosh.
And then they end up having this Looney Tunes style chase scene when the old lady sees them, and they just start running, and like they do
their legs are moving in a cloud of smoke and
their legs are just super spinning, and they're doing this cloud of smoke as they have this Looney Tunes style chase scene. Oh my gosh, this movie is so crazy. It is so awesome.
And one of the reasons we're bringing this up is we've actually seen in our feed at various anime conventions people are dressing up as this landlady.
People are cosplaying as the landlady. And like, I'm just not as familiar with Hong Kong cinema as I'd like to be, but every single martial artist in that movie, including her and her husband, are certified badasses when it comes to martial arts, okay?
And he's just doing this comedy with them.
Filled with Hong Kong legends, the entire movie. So, yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, and just, what a great movie. What a great movie.
All right, so...
Seriously, do yourself a favor and watch Kung Fu Hustle, okay? It is gold.
Yes. All right. Now, on to our last anime.
Last anime for this season is Key the Metal Idol.
Okay. Now, we only started watching this last week, so we didn't have a lot of time to put more time into it. And due to the nature of the show, I can't just watch it at a time when my kids could be walking.
It's very much 90s anime,
yes,
where
it's
they're not afraid of showing the boobs.
Yep. And so, and I'd like to keep watching it, but I don't know when I'll be able to find the time to.
Yeah. It's like, it wasn't bad for what I saw. Like I said, it's just not my cup of tea right now. Maybe I'll watch more of it later, but
it is more my cup of tea. I don't.
Yeah.
I mean, because you're as fluent in Japanese as you are, that the comedy reaches you better.
Yeah, probably.
Than it does for me. Whereas cerebral visual work is something that I'm more keen on.
Cool.
And so things like Lane and Psycho-Pass and this.
Well, I enjoyed Psycho-Pass. I just didn't watch any more of it. Or no, I watched a couple more episodes, but never really got further.
And my problem with Psycho-Pass was that the content of it was not something I could be watching at a time when my kids could walk through the room. So.
Oh, okay. So that's it. That's our recap, guys. That's our recap. Real fast before we go, a couple of things. There was a little bit of news that I did want to share, and I've already backed it. And it's already smashed through the majority of its stretch goals. The Bloodborne board game went live today.
Okay.
And at last email I got, they had broken they had broken $1.75 million for the board game. There's only one tier. If you, it's either $90 or $100, and the 90 is only available for a limited time. They are both the exact same awards, but if you back it early, you can get it for 90 instead of 100.
Okay, early backer discount.
Early backer discount.
That makes sense.
And it's have I shown you the Dark Souls 3 board game that I have?
Yes, you have.
It's not made by the same company, but it's in a very similar vein from what I'm seeing.
Okay.
Yeah, it looks really, really cool. I'm really looking forward to it. And because I've backed it, I'm every single stretch goal, they're just including all the stretch goal stuff for everybody who backs it. So, and I'm already getting a bunch of extra stuff because of how quickly the backers have, smashed all of the goals.
That's fantastic.
And last week, Critical Role, their Kickstarter ended at over $11 million. And they got the belt from the previous champions for the most funded film Kickstarter.
Oh, wow.
From Joel of MST3K. He came and he gave them the belt, and it's like a championship type belt.
Wow.
For beating MST3K. And they just kind of had a chill party for the last half hour of the campaign. I successfully backed that as well. I'm looking forward to reviewing the first 3 episodes on our podcast when it comes out in 2020.
Looking forward to that.
Oh, there's got to be, like, with how much money they raised, there's got to be places like Netflix or things like that definitely want to, step in at this point and help them out to finish it.
No kidding.
Because apparently they took it to multiple studios, but nobody was interested in it because they didn't think there was that much interest in a D&D based show. Well, they just got proven wrong.
No, like, so here's our market.
Mm-hmm.
Here's our market research. These are the people who will watch this show. Oh, well then.
Okay.
Yes.
So, a little bit of an announcement for you guys. We're going to be taking the next month off.
Yes.
We're going to be revamping the podcast, trying to expand the YouTube channel and things like that. So we're going to take the next month off to kind of try to get caught up on the shows we want to get caught up on. And just kind of give ourselves a break to just kind of refresh and relax and throw some ideas around and see what sticks. I have some ideas for our YouTube channel. I kind of also have some ideas of possibly doing theme months and things like that, so it's easier for us to pick our shows in the future. And yeah, so we're going to be taking the next month off, so you won't have any episodes of us throughout the month of May. But pay attention for June when we come back. That said, I had picked out a show last week for us to watch for our next episode, but since we're taking the month off to go ahead and recoup our engines and kind of discuss some things.
Yep.
As I'm talking to Lee, he's falling asleep on the chair right in front of me. So this, instead of watching it for next week, I had picked this out last week, but then I remembered that this week was a recap episode.
So when we return,
we'll be watching Domestic Girlfriend.
Okay.
Natsuo is a high schooler experiencing the crushing despair of unrequited love towards his teacher, Hina. In an attempt to lift his spirits, he attends a mixer where he meets a girl named Rui. The two sleep together, expecting never to see one another again, but fate has other plans. His life suddenly becomes more complicated when his father comes home and announces he has remarried a woman with 2 daughters whom Natsuko has met before, Hina and Rui.
Yep.
And apparently it's a really, really good show. It's got great reviews online. And I am looking forward to us watching this and discussing it on our first episode back when we come back in June.
All right. Looking forward to it.
All right. Well, that's it for another week. I've been Andrew.
I've been Lee.
And this has been Whitaker Weekly. You guys have a great week.